First, I thank you for indicating that I had something to do with the rise of nuclear power, which we are all glad to call a nuclear renaissance. I did have a lot to do with it, and I'm very proud of that. I think the Senator knows I won't be here very long because I've decided to retire after 36 years, and that means this January. But I'm very confident that even leaving in that short time from now, that we have set the seeds for the nuclear renaissance. It will be in the world, not just in America, but it would always have been short of what it could be and should be if America was not part of this renaissance. If America wasn't part, the world somehow would not feel right about nuclear. And since we started it, and then we impropitiously stopped producing it and stopped all the leadership that we had, we're starting up anew now, and there's great excitement in the American nuclear community, which is expanding dramatically. Universities are establishing new nuclear physics courses. I think the Senator knows that. Senator from Oklahoma knows that. We have put money in the energy and water bill, 10 to 15 million a year for universities to get started, bring them up where they were, and that's going to be very exciting. But have no doubts, since the United States knows how to produce the very best nuclear power plants, Nuclear Regulatory Commission is of the highest quality. They are not going to approve licenses unless they are absolutely certain that the plans, designs, and locations are absolutely the best. And that's going to take a little while. We have like 34, I think is the number, 33 or 34, that are in the process of applying, with about 7 or 8 firmed up, completed, that all the process that they need to submit is done. That's so exciting when you consider 20+ years we had zero, not a single one, until we passed the Energy Policy Act, and the distinguished senator from Oklahoma was not on the Energy Committee, but he was very helpful at every step as we produced this Energy Policy Act, which included, as everyone agrees, all of the ingredients to cause the American nuclear power to have a renaissance, and it's doing that. Now, there is no way we're going to effectively clean the CO2 that we consume in the production of electricity or in the use of power produced from nuclear energy. There's no way we're going to clean up the CO2 without nuclear power. And if I mention nuclear power as the producer of CO2, let's clarify that. It's the one big source of power that has no CO2 emissions attached to it. So it's good that we're moving there. But today we have a bill before us that has to be discussed and debated and amended, as I see it, for such a long period of time for the American people and the senators to understand its implications, that today I choose to just speak about one little part, the impact on oil and gas prices of this bill. Because this is a bill that purports to put America on a path of consuming less and less CO2, but it has some real difficult hurdles to cross as we move there. And in the meantime, there is no question that it has impacts on a lot of things, and we have to consider whether it's worth all of the ramifications or not, considering what the bill will or will not do. So, Mr. President, let me remind senators that we're all coming back from home states. I'm returning from my home state of New Mexico where I visited constituents and listened to their concerns. And in every town I visited, at every event I attended, and during every meeting, I took the same issue and put it before the people and discussed it with them. They asked the same questions over and over again. How will Congress deal with the rising gas prices? I expect that every senator had similar experience during the recent recess travels. This morning, the price of gasoline was, on average, a record of $3.98. Now, I used average and got that from an appropriate official, but in many places it's already past the $4 mark, but its average is $3.98. At the start of this Congress, the average was just $2.33, meaning the cost of gasoline has jumped by 70% in just 18 months. The record gas prices are causing tremendous pain for Americans. In one recent survey, 40% of workers said that the high price had forced them to change the way they get to and from work. Many have stopped driving altogether, and public transit ridership is at an all-time high. Others have traded their vehicles in for smaller ones, but most importantly, many are feeling the impact on the family budget. They're just feeling like they can't make it because they only have one way to go to work. They have to work, 2 workers in a family, and when you add the price of gasoline to that, it becomes an expense that they can hardly bear. The impact is not limited to transportation. They affect nearly every aspect of American lives and ripple throughout our economy. As fuel cost rises, as I indicated, family budgets are stretched. Millions have canceled vacation plans, cut down on shopping trips. For those living paycheck to paycheck, the price at the pump is the difference between being able to pay your bills on time and going into debt. Runaway energy costs also hurt our businesses, as evidenced by recent announcements from Ford Motors and American Airlines. High gas prices even impact the quality of education that our children receive. A school district in Minnesota has already announced that its schools will move to 4-day weeks to avoid the budget shortfalls. The schools in North Carolina are planning fewer field trips for their students, which are often among the most memorable experiences that our children can have. As these examples illustrate, the consequences of high energy prices are widely felt, far-reaching and difficult to overcome. We must take real steps to ensure that these are properly addressed and that we are not telling these same types of stories in the future. After hearing our constituents plead for relief from high gas prices, it was my hope that senators would rededicate themselves to reducing the cost of oil and gas. Instead, by bringing up a bill to establish a cap-and-trade regime, which we will hear much about in the ensuing days, the majority has chosen to go in the opposite direction from reducing gas prices or holding them steady for our constituents. As summer driving season begins and oil prices remain at near all-time records, it is simply incredible that the first measure debated in this session will not be a bill to lower energy prices by producing more of our own energy, but a bill that will, in fact, substantially increase by assigning the cost to carbon content of traditional fuels. There is no question that this bill will increase the cost of gasoline. According to EIA, gas prices would rise by 41% in the year 2030. EPA places this figure as high as $1.01 per gallon by the year 2030. Every policy has a price, but we continue to face record energy prices. The costs of this bill are simply unacceptable, no matter which version is up to date. An economist at the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas recently told the New York Times that every 1 cent increase in gasoline means one Americans pay $1.42 billion more a year for gas. Absolutely an incredible number. We wonder why the economy is being affected by this enormous price increase of gasoline and diesel fuel. At the same time, when they can least afford it, this will translate to even greater pain at the pump for consumers. At a time when the strength of our economy is already seriously in our concern, it will lower the bottom line of American business and jeopardize their global competitiveness. When recess ended and we make our way back to Washington, it's our obligation to do our best to resolve the concern of our constituents Right now, we should be working to find a way to reduce energy prices. Instead, as we begin to debate a cap-and-trade regime, which may not work, it is clear that there is a fundamental disconnect between many in this chamber and the American people, who simply cannot afford to pay more for energy. As the Boxer bill proves, there is much that Congress can do to raise these prices, and we are setting about to do that. Mr. President, I commend my colleagues for trying to tackle the task of reducing carbon emissions to address global climate change. However, the American people are facing higher costs and tough economic concerns. They're worried about their family budgets and about their jobs. This bill will make these worries greater, increase those costs even more. I'll be speaking at great length as we consider this bill in the coming days, and I will speak of many other issues besides the one today, for there are many more. I speak of just one today, which I think we should start with and know what we are dealing with in terms of the side effects of legislation. It's controversial, not only controversial, but many are quite certain that it won't do the job. With that, I thank the Senator for yielding me time and the Senate for yielding me time, and I yield the floor.